right, you guys, hello, I'm Sandra Coan and welcome to day one of the posing challenge. So for day one, we're going to talk all about hands and how to use hands and hand placement in your posing. Hands are extremely important, you guys, because your hands really show a lot of emotion, believe it or not. A lot of body language comes in through your hands. And so if you have awkward hands or weird hands in a photo, it's going to make the whole photo look kind of weird and awkward. So that's why we're starting here. So I want to just talk for a minute about what are bad hands in a photo and what are good hands. Okay, so first of all, some common mistakes that I see a lot in portrait work is that people spend all this time positioning a baby or positioning mom and dad or a family, and then they overlook the hands and what the hands are telling us. So for example, I see a lot of this kind of hands in pictures. I always call these like the Barbie hands or like the robot dance hands, where people will be posed, especially maternity, right? And they're here in a maternity pose and their hands are so stiff and so unnatural looking that it makes the whole image look kind of awkward to me. You know, it's so much better if fingers are wide and fingers are relaxed, whether you're holding a baby or you're placing someone in a maternity pose. So for example, this is my posing doll, Betty. But you know, if you have a mom or a dad holding their baby and they're nervous and they're trying to like be a pose, you know, the way that they think they should, oftentimes you're gonna get that weird stiff Barbie hand, and it's not gonna look natural, it's not gonna look comfortable. If you just simply have them relax their hand, it just changes everything about the image. So that's the number one mistake that I see with hands in portraits. Another mistake that I see all the time with portraits, especially when you're working with families and they're holding their kid, is that parents will come and they'll pick up their kid. This usually happens with toddlers, and they do the this hold, right? Or the this hold, the crotch hold. It's just not flattering. It just doesn't work. Now listen, I used to hold my babies like that too because it's an easy way to pick up babies, but it's not pretty in a photo. So when you're posing a baby or a toddler with a parent, you want to make sure that the way they're holding the baby is flattering. So I usually make a little shelf and I'll have them hold the baby here, you know, on a shelf. Or if a toddler's on a knee, same thing. You can't really see me, able to pretend this is my knee. Where instead of here, you're here. So the baby's still supported, but the hand looks relaxed. And it's much more flattering. Another thing you want to avoid with hands in photos is like the fist or the claw. Again, this just makes everything in the image look awkward because that's a nervous stance. So you want to relax the hands. So some tricks that I use when I'm trying to relax my clients' hands is, first of all, is I just have them open their fingers. That's a great place to start. If you're in a maternity photo, I'm going to stand up so you can see myself posed as a maternity. If you're a maternity photo and you're here, that looks stressful, but if you have them relax their hands, then suddenly it's much more nurturing and more natural looking. So that's a great place to start. One of my tricks when I'm working with just an individual and I'm doing some headshots is I always have them come forward and engage their hands. I won't put hands on the face because you don't want a squishy face in your photos, but I will bring hands up to the side, just leaning forward, engaged. I think hands look better in profile than flat hands. So here, 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 that kind of soft, natural looking hand. I always tell people, like, lean forward, bring your hands up as if we're like having a great conversation and you're super engaged. How would you hold your hands? And start there. When working for maternity, I've always already talked about like a get rid of the Barbie hands. But another thing you want to think about anytime you're posing a pregnant mom or a mom with a baby is hands around this area. So I'm just going to be blunt. I see a lot of pictures with hands on the boobs, Hands on the boobs is just never a flattering pose. Don't do it. And I get that, you know, if people are in a drape, they want to cover, but there are ways that you can cover with your arms that I do, and you can bring the hands into kind of almost like a prayer position just above that level, or even a little bit down below. That's much more flattering. So think about that. So for this week's challenge, what I want you to do is I want you just to go out, photograph, you know, your husband, your wife, your partner, photograph your best friend with her kids. Take some sort of a portrait, even if it's a self-portrait, but just be really aware of hands. Work on making sure those hands look relaxed. Work on finding a flattering, soft angle and photograph that. Start paying attention to your clients when you're working with them and where their hands are, how they're holding their babies, how they're holding their bellies, if it's a maternity photo. All of that kind of stuff matters. And like I said, it will absolutely change your work when you start being more aware of hands and bringing them and using them in your posing. All right, so that's the day one challenge. Be sure to post your images in our Facebook group. And I'll put a link underneath this video to that if you're not already in. And if you are going to share your images on Instagram, and I hope you do, please use the hashtag SC for Sandra Coan, SC Posing Challenge. All right, and then that way I can see your work, and I might even share some of your work in my stories. Okay, you guys, good luck. I can't wait to see all your images. All right, bye.